That's what I got. But then I didn't get the screen that shows all the people. And I'm here, there I am as the meeting host. I'll call Linda.
Here, I think when other people join,
okay.
you
so
will.
How did you get to that?
I just said start video.
Okay.
I just toggled it. So I think when other people, Mary David isn't here. Let me admit her, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you should see her.
Okay.
Now start your video and see if that.
Where do I do that?
Right there. There you go.
Okay.
I think you're all set.
And if I want to change my name?
You go up here and hit the 3 little dots and hit rename.
Hello.
Hello. Working.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Oh, I am not Penny.
Oh, did I rename you? I'm sorry.
I'll rename myself. That's all right.
Okay, I'll rename me. Sorry. I'm really kludgy at this. I apologize. This is not my strength in life for sure. Okay, now we're who we're supposed to be. I need to open up another computer where I have other information. Yeah, I know I need to admit people. My husband is helping me.
That's good.
Yes.
So my Zoom just decided to update. Hope I don't lose you.
Oh, great.
Mine wanted to do the same. I told it no.
Mine didn't give me a choice. It just started.
Okay. So, I'm going to be trying to run the meeting on my tiny little Mac and take notes on the big Mac. Let's see how that works.
Well, we're doing something a little different over here tonight, and I'm hoping it works. My granddaughter is sleeping over, and her aunt is putting her to bed. And hopefully
all is good.
We hope all is good.
Yeah. Well,
it looks like I have also host privileges, guys. I just let Marie in.
Oh, good. Great. Okay, that's great.
If you want, I'll let people in.
If you want to do that, that's fine. I feel a little overwhelmed by
it's really hard to be taking notes and looking up. Okay. Hi, Maria. Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. Oh, wait, one more minute. And here is Mark.
Oh, good. Yes, I told Mark
Penny,
didn't come, but here he is.
Penny, should I just introduce the when we get started the quorum issue?
Yes, although yes,
okay.
I do. And so the members who are here know we have rescheduled the RDA hearing that was scheduled at 7:30, which loosens up our schedule a little bit, and I'll explain about that when the time comes.
All right, well, let's start the meeting, 7 o'clock. Scott, Kahan, and Beth are not going to be here tonight. So we got our full contingency. Hi, Mark. And our meeting is freed up a little bit because we have, as Penny mentioned, the RDA. So why don't we go over a couple of issues before we get to our 7:15 hearing. We learned, this is why I wanted you to come at 7, Maria, so we could keep you informed. We learned at the end of June that for a 5-person commission, a quorum has to be 3 eligible voting members, which was not entirely clear before that point. And we've also recently learned that because the ANRADs were continued for such a long period of time, a problem has come up with the eligible quorum for approving the ANRADs. You need to have 3 eligible voters, quorum commissioners. And there's another requirement that the commissioners have attended the meetings, all of the hearings. There's a Mullins rule, which is creates an exception that allows you to miss 1 substantive meeting as long as you review the minutes and are familiarizing yourself with anything you might have missed in order to still be eligible to vote. The problem is that there were many public continued meetings for the ANRADs that we voted on. And we consulted with our town council about this because it also involves one of the current open ANRADs from Montague Carver, because that's also been continued for quite a long time. So when we voted for Pratt Corner West and Baker Road ANRADs, the only commissioners that had been at all of the meetings, the public hearings all along were Robin Harrington and Liam Cregan, Robin who's here. Mary David and I came onto the commission in the fall of 2020. Oh, Mary got bumped up. Here's Mary. Hold on one sec. We lost Mary for a sec. Oh, and Janice Stone. I don't know what happened to Mary.
Maybe it has to do with her her Zoom deciding to update itself.
Well, we don't have a quorum until she gets back in. Oh, here she is. Hi, Janice.
Hello.
Hey, Janice.
So, Mary, I don't know how much you missed when we lost you.
Yeah, it kicked me off.
So we were just reviewing this quorum issue.
Yes.
And that for the Pratt Corner West and for the Baker Road ANRADs that were approved in January and in March, there really were technically only 2 eligible commissioners to vote on the ANRAD. Mary and I had not been on the commission for most of the time that the ANRAD had been open. And so that raises some concerns about the ANRAD process. And what our town council is advising us is to make sure that everything is really done properly and that there are no questions later about the ANRAD, the ORADs, that we should advise the applicant and come up with a plan for a resubmission. And our thought about it is that we want to try to make this as time efficient as possible and not as, we want to minimize how onerous it is, because that this is not the intention of the commission to make it onerous on the applicant, but we don't want to leave an ORAD that may not have been correctly approved.
Can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's Maria Furstenberg for for the record, TRC. So just to clarify, in terms of ANRADs that were voted on, we're just talking about Pratt West and Baker.
Yes, the other two,
Okay.
because those were submitted in the fall of 2020, and Mary and I were on the commission by then. We were eligible to vote on those.
Okay, I just wanted to,
Yes,
there was a lot of information and I wanted
Yes,
to
I
make
know.
sure that I
yes.
had the correct list.
So it's those two. And then the other question is Montague Carver. Pratt Corner South, also, we shouldn't have a problem with because it was submitted in the fall.
Yeah,
And,
that one's newer.
and Mary and I and Robin have all been at the public hearing. So we've got a quorum of 3 commissioners for Pratt Corner South whenever that closes. But for Montague Carver, even if we were to try to wiggle around it, when I look through the minutes, it looks like we've had multiple hearing meetings that were substantive, where there was some substantive discussion. And so that really means there's no way for us to technically, say, okay, we'll read the minutes. We're only allowed to do that for 1 hearing. We can't do it for multiple hearings. So I think, what we want to do is discuss with you and have you, go back to TRC and try to figure out the best process. I think if we're going to have a resubmission, the plan would be that we would do it in 1 meeting. We're not going to go through we don't need any new delineations, we don't need to go through all that process. It would be 1 public hearing where we would just summarize everything that's taken place to date and reissue the ORAD.
That is, I mean, we couldn't ask for anything more reasonable than that. I guess and maybe Mark Stinson will have something to offer on the best way to do this. But we would prefer to not have to pay our filing fees all over again. It would certainly, for a new meeting, we'd have to re-notify abutters, but
right. Yeah, we had, there was a little brief email exchange, Penny, and maybe you can chime in on this. My understanding was that, yes, abutters would need to be noticed. And again, I'm not sure what the status would be around filing fees versus costs.
And Mark, you might want to weigh in on that. The DEP might feel differently than the town feels for its portion of the fee.
Well, I have no Mass DEP. I have no ability to waive a state filing fee.
well, so I guess my question is, like, do we actually need a new DEP file number? Because if we don't need a new DEP file number, like, we don't need to do a whole brand new submittal. We really just need to give the town, here's the final version of the plans that had previously been approved, and here's a summary letter of the meetings that we were at and when we were on site with the reviewer.
If I can jump in, if you look at the definition of quorum in the regulations, it says a quorum is defined as a majority of members then in office. So in order to sign a determination in order in ORAD, you need a majority of the members currently on the commission to sign the order. You need a majority vote, bottom line.
Mark,
it is,
Mark,
yeah.
I'm just going to jump in. I had a consultation with the open government office at the AGO, and they advised us that the way the state law is written for the Conservation Commission, it's as constituted. it has to be a quorum as constituted. So it is not changed with vacancies on the commission. They said if it's constituted as a five
Well,
person commission.
let me stop you there. If you look at the MACC handbook, there's two theories, two regulatory reviews that MACC handbook mentions. One is the one that you're stating the AG's office is, and the other is what the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations state. Wetlands regulations do not state what the AG's office is. And I'm not going to interpret for a town which is the correct way to go. All I can say is the regulations say is a quorum is the member, is defined as majority of the members then in office.
Mhm.
Some towns do it one way, some towns do it the other way based on sometimes their municipal attorney. All I'm mentioning is what our regulations state. So if you look at the MACC handbook again, it actually talks about, if potentially you have a situation such as this, what is the commission supposed to do? And the answer is, well, bottom line, if someone does not like the order that was issued, feels there's a regulatory issue, they have a right to appeal, and then DEP will take the case. I'm not advising that. We don't want the case.
And I think the town of, this is Penny speaking, I think the town of Shutesbury does not want to be in a situation where if a solar project is submitted down the line, that someone goes back and tries to appeal the ANRAD as a way of fighting.
Well, once the 10 business day appeal period's up, there's absolutely no ability to appeal, period.
Well, I think the argument, though, that they've been counseled is that because the quorum may not have been qualified to vote, that the appeal period doesn't mean anything. But basically that it was a
Incorrectly issued.
Right, it's not a valid.
right, like it wasn't a valid vote. I think that's what their counsel is
Okay,
telling them.
well, I'm not a lawyer, so if that's what your counsel is telling you, I'm not
Am I
going to
understanding
dispute that.
correctly?
Yes.
Well, our town council in Hadley, when we just had this problem, we had 4 people left out of a 6-member group, and town council insisted repeatedly that it required 4 because it was the number of seats, not the number of filled seats, like Miriam was saying. And that he was from Koppelman and Page. That was the person that was counseling us in Hadley for what was a legal quorum for issuing the orders.
Yes, but I don't think that the number of people here is the issue. I think the issue is that at least one of the persons were not able to attend enough of the
And that's what that means.
substantive meeting.
Yeah, that's what I mean, a legal quorum to be able to issue a decision.
You can't make a decision unless you have
Yeah.
at least 3.
Who've attended the meetings, et cetera.
But the bottom line is also that 2 members who did not attend most of the meetings did sign those 2 ORADs. And that also could come back to cause problems.
Yes,
Mhm.
and it certainly wasn't intentional.
No, it wasn't intentional. It's really a result of the fact that we've had tremendous turnover in staff and commission over the duration of the ANRAD process. When you think about it, the 4 of the ANRADs were submitted 18 months ago. So we have, of those, what is it, just 1 that's still open, but they've gone on for a long period of time, and many things within the commission have changed.
Yeah.
Yes, we had a similar situation in another town, actually, where the entire commission turned over, but
Yeah.
that happened during the review process. Nothing had been voted on yet, so we essentially started over with them, but we didn't do a brand new filing. We just gave them an update and did a new site walk with them and stuff.
So that's where we're at. And I guess what we're going to need to do is we need to probably agree, this is the advice of our council. But but I think we need to hear from the other commissioners who are present, and, we need to make a decision on how we're going to move forward.
I mean, honestly, I probably have to go back to, my team and ask their counsel how they want to proceed too. I'm certainly gonna bring back whatever your preference is, but I don't feel comfortable just agreeing to things tonight. I don't think you're asking for anything unreasonable, but I'm gonna have to follow up in an email or something and let you know what they say, because I don't want to agree to things that
Of course.
are unwilling.
Robin and Mary, do you guys want to chime in? Do you have any questions or thoughts about this?
No, I wish it had occurred to me earlier that I was the only one who'd been present at all these things. But I just want to make sure we follow the rules, and they're not going to get in any trouble later. We're not going to get in any trouble later.
Yeah.
So when it's finally approved, it's an official approval. That's what,
Yeah, I think there should be a way that we can not have to resubmit this, just bring it back up again and if I was reading correctly, and go back over the conversation and review it and vote on it again.
Well, it sounds
Without
like
having to refile and everything.
it sounds like it has to be refiled, is what we're being advised by town council. And if you look at the article from MACC, the legal opinion that I circulated, that was their recommendation as well, that it be refiled, but that you do an abbreviated hearing process. So it's a one shot, one meeting hearing.
But I thought it also said that it didn't need a refiling fee and all of that.
It did.
If they don't, or they do.
I don't remember if the article discussed the filing fee. It just said it had to be filed. And it sounds like we can't waive the fee for DEP. So I think that maybe the best thing is for Maria to go back to her supervisor and find out how they like to proceed. And if necessary, we can also have our town council be present at a meeting if that would be helpful.
That might be helpful. Sorry, I'm trying to think.
Yeah. So I don't think we can make
Not
it.
what I usually get to talk about at meetings.
No, I know. I don't think we can make a decision right now. I mean, and I don't know, I don't really have an answer about whether we can waive fees. I know that the email we got from town administrator was that we could possibly charge just the costs, charge for the costs incurred by the town if it's less than the filing fee.
Right, but I don't know that Becky understands that in the Conservation Commission's case, it's the applicant who pays for the newspaper ad and the butter notices.
Right.
So,
I've seen towns waive fees before commissions waive fees at their discretion.
Yeah, there's usually, it might need to specifically be in our letter that we're requesting a waiver because of, we already went through the process, but that's something that the town should be able to do. We just might need to look at the correct mechanism to make the request.
So, yes. So
I'm going to interrupt for just a minute because we have on the docket a 7:15 continuation.
Yep.
We should talk about that. And then if we want to come back to this conversation.
That's
Sure.
right.
So Miriam, would you like to open that?
It's 7:19 actually,
Yeah.
but opening the continued public hearing for the ANRAD at ZO2 Pratt Corner South. So, you want to give us an update, Maria?
I finally got the last signature. So I am actually going to send you stuff for real because I have the signature now. That's really my update. So
Can you give us some insight into what has been why this has taken so long?
So essentially what happened is that when we initially went out with the reviewer and discussed what the anticipated access to the future project is, it turned out that we needed to add a couple of parcels or portions of a couple parcels into the review area. And those parcels are actually owned by the town of Amherst. So they've been going back and forth with them to get their signature on those parcels, because otherwise you could not technically approve any flags on those parcels.
I see.
You and Emily could be comfortable with where they are, but it would, potentially compromise you legally to approve those without that landowner's signature. So that's the one we've been waiting on, and it finally came through.
Thank you. That's very helpful to understand.
And when I give it to you, because there's an updated WPA form that's coming to you that has the additional parcel information and stuff in it. So you will see that, and you will get a summary of that in the actual letter that I'm going to send you with that documentation. So
That's all, that's all on the most up-to-date maps that we have.
yes, it should be. If I didn't send them to you yet, they will be in this letter too. But we completed the site walks and everything with Emily a while ago. So this was really just waiting on the final pieces of documentation that we needed in order to be able to even have a vote.
I see. Thank you.
So what is your thought about scheduling at this point for this one? Do you have a date in mind?
I did not actually get to bring up my calendar.
So our next meeting is on the 26th. I think, I think the guideline we've been operating under is that everyone would be provided with information at least 2 weeks prior to the next meeting, and we're at that.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So
If I send it out tonight, you will have it.
tomorrow.
Yes.
What is our schedule for, we have Montague Carver scheduled for when?
September, the
I
first
believe-
meeting in September, I believe.
Is it the first week? I think it's September 9th.
Right, that's our first meeting in September.
I mean, part of my thought in requesting the 26th for this is that it sounds like I need to come back here to kind of have some discussion about the quorum issue. So it makes sense for me to come back anyway. And if you're not ready to vote, then it can just get continued again.
What else do we have on, do we have anything else scheduled right now, Penny? We may have to have a,
I think the only other thing that I'm aware of is the rescheduled RDA public meeting for the Gribco irrigation system.
we're gonna have that, and I wonder if we're gonna have to have a meeting about the culvert project as well that night.
Well, hopefully we can take care of that tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So what time slot is open on the schedule? Did we agree on a time?
We don't have a time for the Gribcos yet. She was on the road back from Maine.
Okay.
And was going to be in touch with me when she regrouped.
Okay.
So
why don't
we say 7:30 for the Gribcos
Okay.
and 8 o'clock for the ANRAD.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we'll also allow some time to talk further about how to proceed with the matters that we discussed tonight.
Okay,
I would just say, I recommend that you do have town council come to the next meeting, and Maria might have some of her people there or something, and you end up in the discussion having these questions like, can we do a sort of a reboot without a new file number, or whether it needs a new file number? And sometimes that may be where the legal people come in and can decide what works best for everybody.
okay. Mark, do you know? You
Yeah.
don't know whether they need to have a new file number?
Yeah, they've got to do a new submittal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I
if-
was just
if it's
thinking
new
if
middle.
Maria wants to do it, I mean, if it ends up happening, I mean, and you pay online, I can issue you a file number the same day.
Okay.
That's not even a problem.
Mark, will you be able to come to the next meeting?
When's the next meeting? Let me check my calendar.
The
26th.
26th.
Well,
Yeah, right now I've got it open. Yeah.
I just want to say, I don't know about Donna and McNichol's availability, so we need to also confirm that. So we'll
Understood.
we'll try to see if she's available to have her come, and we'll let Mark, we'll let you know, as well as Maria, if that's going to work and when we can fit that into this schedule, or whether we need to postpone it to our September meeting. The first meeting in September, if that is going to, with August, you never know with people's vacation plans.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what vacation
Meeting
is.
continued because we're on vacation.
All right. All right. So should we move and close the hearing? You ready for
Well,
that?
we're going to continue the hearing.
Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry. Thank you. That's what I meant. Continue the hearing. So I move that we continue the
8 o'clock.
meeting to August 26th at 8 p.m. What a second.
I second.
Robin seconds. Okay. David,
Aye.
the font I, Harrington.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And I'm sorry, Maria, for more headaches.
No, it happens. It's annoying, but it happens. So just to recap before I go on my way to finish pulling the Pratt South stuff together for you. We're going to hopefully have a meeting date where we can have counsel from both sides to figure out what's needed. And because of that, we don't really have any specific requests right now for like what you would want, because everyone wants to talk to council more.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I was on the same page.
And at least we will continue Pratt Corner South to the 26th. And I guess we will discuss with town council whether she's available. And Maria, you can see if anyone from your end wants to be part of the conversation, and we'll either do that on the 26th or September if need be.
But it appears like you're probably going to have to do new filing. That seems to be the premise to work on.
I think so.
Yeah, we're just trying to, part
Yeah.
of the question is figuring out what to do with the fees and stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
I think that's part of what we want to talk to council to figure out.
Okay.
The
All
other,
right.
like notifying the butters and stuff is not actually that big of a deal. It's just that ANRADs are expensive.
Yeah. Well, that many abutters gets expensive too.
All right.
Fair.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks for letting me know, and thanks again for your patience on the ANRADs that have been going on for a while.
All right, well, let's move on. We've got a few items and updates to cover, and then we can go over the site visits since
Well,
we're,
we have one, well,
Yep.
I guess I just want to see, is everyone in the meeting that needs to be in the meeting? Do we have 9 participants? I just want to make sure there's no one here for the Gribco hearing.
is anybody here for the RDA for Gribco? No.
No, okay, okay.
All right.
So can I just explain what happened with this now so we don't have to do that
yeah,
later?
sure. Go ahead.
So when Linda Gribko contacted me to set up her RDA public meeting, I directed her to the Conservation Commission's website to get information on how to go about doing that. And I did not realize that the information on the website had not been updated to talk about the fact that we're operating under COVID times and that we're doing Zoom meetings. So when she published her meeting information, it stated that it was at town hall. And so we were advised, because it was the wrong location was given, that legally we really had to reschedule. So that is what has happened at this point. And I think all the relevant people have been notified. So this will just come again, hopefully on the 26th.
Thanks. I'm glad that got caught. I hope nobody showed up at town hall tonight.
There's signs all over the place.
Thanks. All right, so some other issues. I wanted to give the commission an update about my status in terms of the financial conflict of interest with parcel ZG2, which includes the Wheelock Track Solar Project and Pratt Corner East. I've gone through the process with the Ethics Commission, and I had an comparative appraisal done of my home that passed their approval, and I've submitted the paperwork to the select board. So I have successfully rebutted the conflict of interest issue.
Good.
And am now no longer required to recuse myself. So that's it.
Great, good.
All right.
On the topic, there is a planned site visit on August 25th, Wednesday, August 25th at 3:30. And the commission is invited. So who would like to go? Do you all want to go?
I do.
I can try to go.
Okay, great. I do. And I think, Penny, you would like to come as a interested
As a
party.
former commissioner, I'd like to see where things stand. Yes.
Okay, we probably need to ask permission to include you or let them know. I don't think it's
I
gonna be a
think I'm
problem.
I think I'm on the list.
Are you?
I'll be in touch with the planning board.
And this issue about a release has been put aside, the idea of that paperwork. Did you see that? From
I
Jeff Lee?
didn't see that. Okay.
There was a release, the operator for Wheelock Tract asked the planning board members to sign a release of claims paperwork for a recreational tour, is how it characterized it. And our town council determined that that was not appropriate and we would not be signing any recreational tour releases. And that's all I've heard of it. I haven't heard any more about that. So it'll be 3:30 and I will imagine we'll hear more from the planning board, but I imagine people will be meeting at the gates, which are at 130 West Pratt Corner Road, if you don't know where it is.
What's the address again?
I think the sign says 130. It's on the same side, of course, as my house, and it's a
Okay.
dirt driveway, dirt road with a gate.
All right, so meeting at the gates, because last time when I went, I stopped at the gates. I thought, oh, this is where to stop. And then nobody was showing up. So I drove up for a while and then I saw a place to pull off and I pulled off and nobody was showing up. And I'm like, am I
It was
really
open?
supposed to drive all the way up there? And so that's where everyone was.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
So
we're assuming the gates would be closed, but if the gates are
yes,
open,
I can give you advice. If the gate is closed, meet at the gate. But if the gate is open, drive until you see the cars.
That's
Okay,
what I was thinking.
okay.
If it, I was assuming
what
the
I
gate was
learned.
closed, but if it's open, then keep driving. Okay. So that's that. Other issue, Penny, do you have any updates on the Southbrook Conservation Area project?
I do not, I'm sorry to say. I actually sent a letter to the CPC, or an email to the CPC, just to confirm that I could move forward with things. And asked the question about what I need to do to hire a consultant, a trail consultant. And I haven't gotten a response. And I've just been so busy with Concom stuff that I did not follow up on that, but I will.
That sort of reminds me. So Linda is our rep right now on the CPA. Is that correct?
Yep.
That brings up a related topic, which I meant to bring up tonight, which was that the Water Resources Committee, which has been mostly defunct, but actually exists as a committee in town, is supposed to have a designated Conservation Commission representative. Paul Lyons has been representing the Concom, but they haven't met in 3 years, so there hasn't been a lot of representing going on. You know, there have been I've heard some discussion about wanting to get the Water Resources Committee perhaps more involved, given that there's concerns about water quality in town. And so I'm making the suggestion that, you know, we see who on the commission might want to be in that representative role. Paul can still be on the committee as a community at large member, so it doesn't boot him off. And I think maybe we should wait until we've got the whole commission present just to see who might be interested.
Well, you might also want to wait and see if the committee becomes active before you go through the process of finding someone to be part of the committee. I mean, I know they haven't met in 3 years, and you can always do this at the time they do become active if there's someone on the commission. I will say Paul did a great job because he used to be on the Conservation Commission, and you know, he's knowledgeable of the interests of the commission. So sharing the burden isn't such a bad thing.
So other items that we have. So I think that covers the updates issues. I don't see any others. Oh, I guess.
I think you have the one about the lake issue.
Yeah. So you may recall the video that was sent by Bob Douglas to the commission back in June. I don't know if you guys remember this commission, that he sent a video of a discharge into Lake Wyola on his property. This is I don't know his street address, but he is the landowner who's concerned about people intentionally routing stormwater into his stormwater system that is protecting his septic system. He has a tight tank, and so he has a discharge pipe protecting and rerouting stormwater away from his septic system, and he's concerned that his property is getting used as kind of the conduit for the dirt road. And he sent a video footage to us, and I responded to his email because we had just said nobody had responded to him, and he had emailed us in June. So I responded and asked him if I could share the video with Mark. I thought that might be useful for Mark to take a look at it and advise us. And I have not heard back from him.
From Mark Stinson, or
Mark Stinson,
who is present tonight
here. And I don't know, since it's a public record because it was sent to us. So technically, I think I couldn't share it. I thought as a courtesy, I would let him know before I share it.
I don't remember getting a video from you.
No, I didn't share it yet because I wanted to ask the landowner if it sounded like, he was saying he wanted a response, but he didn't respond to us. I, asked whether he wanted to come to a meeting to talk with us about it. So maybe he didn't get the email. I don't know. Maybe there's a problem with.
And I'm going to interject here and just say this is a long-standing problem. This is Lake Drive, right?
I don't know his street address.
I believe it's Lake Drive, and going back for probably 10 years, many houses have been renovated, enlarged. There's more concrete there. People have put in paved parking pads. And one of the things that I've observed as I've visited for a number of site visits is that people are building these sort of berms along the edge of their property. And I don't think anyone is intentionally shunting water onto Douglas's property, but that's the end result because everyone else is armoring their property so they can't absorb any of the runoff. And so it's really a big problem that needs a big solution. And I don't know what the solution is.
So there was and I'm forgetting her name, who came to one of our meetings, maybe, was it in May or April, about this issue before we got the video. And she lives on, anybody remember her name?
Is it Tracy McNaughton or Donna Rivers?
It's Tracy McNaughton.
Yeah.
So she came and said that that people were doing it intentionally and talking about doing it intentionally. So that's neither here nor there, but really the issue.
Well, I don't think they're aiming it at Douglas's property intentionally. I think they're deflecting it from their property intentionally. That was my observation. And Robin, you've been out there and seen some of those, haven't you?
Yeah. And that would be my feeling. People are just trying to keep it, not on my property. They're not trying to target somebody else, but somebody else ends up being the target.
The one person who doesn't armor their area between the road and down to the lake ends up getting it.
Right, and especially if they're downslope a little bit from the other people upslope on the road. Or
Is there a violation of the act going on?
Well, interestingly enough, Douglas, I believe, is a conservation agent in some town further east in the state. And he made an interesting case that he felt like there was, and this was probably 4 years ago, and I can't remember the details of it, but I don't know, I looked for recommendations on how to solve this when when many people are contributing to the problem.
It's on private road.
Well, it sounds like a civil issue if there's no violation of the act, meaning no resource area being altered. I mean, I don't know why the commission's even involved unless it's a wetlands violation.
Right.
It's a civil issue. I get complaints about this a lot, where people saying or complaining about, somebody's doing something on their property to add more water to my property. And I tell them the same thing. If it's not a wetlands violation, talk to an attorney.
What would
I think his video showed it truly washing his driveway into the lake.
But
Okay,
it's
huge,
in his driveway, it's his very high-tech septic system that's being washed into the lake.
Well, and that's the part of the concern, but the video he sent shows the water coming down and truly washing parts of the driveway right into the lake.
So
Yeah,
you're
so
saying
there's a huge
there's
plume.
pavement going into the lake?
There's sediment, huge amount of sediment.
There's sediment.
And the video
Okay.
shows a huge plume coming into the lake.
All right, does the commission know whether it's an act of God or someone did it such that the sediment washed in? I mean, I'm being totally serious.
Yeah. I mean, it is a dirt of not well-maintained dirt road that slopes downhill towards Douglas's property. And as it, in these heavy rains that we've been having, which have been, as you know, frequent, it picks up a lot of sediment.
Right.
So
And
I think
and the
you should
only-
I think you should look at the video. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's an act of God. I think people have diverted the water in such a way that it is rolling towards his area and washing it out.
I'm not going to look at it. It's not my job to come up with a solution to a runoff problem. That's
right.
the owner's job.
I feel like this-
That isn't what I meant. I just meant for looking at it to help us decide, is that something we should be involved in or not?
If I could just interject here a little bit. So it's been 20 years of DEP not getting involved and the town not getting involved. You know, there are 3 threats to that lake, and this is the largest resource area in town. Runoff from the roads, runoff and seepage from septic systems, and then runoff from people's roofs, impervious roofs. There's an opportunity here for the Conservation Commission to take a very simple position about collecting rainwater or creating water bars that channel this runoff water in a way that it doesn't invade people's yards. But it's nothing that any one of us is going to solve, and it's certainly not incumbent on the state to step in and figure out a solution here. This is up to the Conservation Commission to come up with a solution and make policy guidelines. You don't have to make rules or rulings or have court cases or lawyers involved or any of that nonsense. Just simply make good decisions like rain barrels and controlling runoff on roads. It's actually part of the Gribco case. If you really want to get down to brass tacks here, we're talking about filter strips. We're talking about plantings. These are all policies that the Conservation Commission has made in the past.
they've not been policies done. They've been, they've been parts of orders of conditions for one project at a time. And I think what you're suggesting is very difficult to implement because we can't just tell everyone that they need to do this. We don't have the authority to do that if there's not an active problem.
So
think
the
you-
active
I think
problem
what-
is
I
on
think
video.
Well, but the solution, I think, is beyond the purview of what the commission can easily do. I think what you're suggesting would be better served by a town bylaw.
Perhaps.
And I don't know who on the commission is up to.
No, I think it might be a matter the commission would have to refer to the Water Resources Group, right?
I'm not sure to whom.
Well, right now, I think everybody is kind of punting, and the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee is wanting to talk to the select board about this. There's some tentative plans to set up a joint meeting with the select board, but the select board, I don't think, has any great love for jumping into this. And we are hard put to dictate things, I agree, without it being a project that we're permitting that's under our jurisdiction. But I feel like the Conservation Commission could play a leadership role in helping all of these parties maybe use some best practices and have some policy recommendations. Again, we can't dictate it, what people are going to be doing on their property if it doesn't fall under our jurisdiction, but certainly, some recommendations I think we can make. And sometimes that may be enough. I know that recommendations have been made in the past. I understand that the Lake Wyola Association at one point commissioned an engineering report or an engineering study, but it kind of just got filed somewhere and was never acted upon. So perhaps that has to happen again. But they need to go back to the drawing board and getting a new engineering plan. Because really that would be the best holistic way to approach it, is to look at all the roads. but so I think that we should be involved in the discussion. We can't make any decision right now. It sounds like, Mark, you're saying that what the discharge issue is not something that DP needs to be involved in at this point.
No, I'm saying I'm not an engineer who's going to design something or tell the commission specifically what the problem is. That's not my role. It's not DEP's role. You know, one of the things you also have to be careful of, the situation you have is not unusual. There's dozens of lakes throughout the western region I'm familiar with that have the same kind of issues with private roads. And of course, you know, private road has to be looked at differently than a public way, because the town can definitely spend public funds on a public way where, you know, how is the town going to require, you know, anything on a private way, right? I mean, unless I guess there would have to be a town bylaw that was brought up. But, you know, the issues Don brought up, those are good concepts. But how do you make people do it or require it to be done to avoid the sediment buildup in the lake? And if you don't handle it now, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse.
Mark, when you're saying about a bylaw, what kind of a bylaw are you talking about?
I don't know. I mean, some towns have watershed protection districts, you know, things like that, that's specific to certain areas. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not on the planning board, not on the ZBA. I'm just saying, you know, some of the little information I have is some towns have these watershed protection districts where certain things are required. And I think somebody could investigate what other towns have and see what might be appropriate for Shutesbury. But, you know, again, you know, some of the towns have watershed associations, lake associations. But the problem with those is you can't require people to join. You can't require people to cooperate with each other. So some people may want to work together and other people don't, you know that. So, I mean, the lake associations where people want to work together, there's usually some pretty good solutions that can be found.
Well, okay. I think, you know, maybe we'll just table this for, you know, future discussion. Mary, do you know where things stand with arranging a meeting with the select board?
Yeah, I haven't seen it on their agenda yet. They were supposed to put it on the agenda and invite the people, but I'm not sure if somebody squashed that or not.
Is there anybody in town who does grant funding, goes for grants? Because DEP does have grant programs under the 604B program for studies, as well as what, 319? It's different program sets of regulations. 319 programs for actual work to fix issues in a watershed like non-point source pollution. So it's something, you know, at least somebody could investigate. Again, the 604B and 319 grant program that DEP has for watersheds.
Both of those both of those are done through the regional planning agency. So the FERCog is the one that for our area that actually helps with those grants. And so it might be worth checking with them. I think that's how some of that earlier work that was done on the road runoff issues with the lake was under one of those previous things, but that might be a good way to look at trying to pull something together now, is to talk to FERCog.
I think that was brought up, that was a suggestion that perhaps the town or the Conservation Commission could help the Lake Association by helping them with grant.
They have some very talented people in the Lake Association. I know Mark Rivers, who if I'm not mistaken, is the president or the chair. I'm not sure of his title. You know, he wrote the MOU with the dam keeper regarding the drawdown. He said he's done a lot of good work and he might be willing to tackle with other people a project like that.
And Mark's on the advisory committee. He's not on the Lake Wyola Association.
Yeah, it's always hard for me to keep those two straight.
But part of what Mark is trying to do goes back to, he's trying to get everybody to talk. The
Mhm.
association, the advisory committee, the select board, and the conservation committee to sit down and discuss this and come up with some sort of way to resolve some of these concerns.
So Mark Rivers is the person who's spearheading this, is that right?
So Mark is the one that set the advisory committee, but Mark is the chair of, is the one who sent the initial letter to the select board to request that they put together a committee of those groups to look at these issues. And the select board has up till now chosen not to get involved because their concerns were spending private money, which isn't what the letter was. The letter was to ask a group of people to work together to talk about or research what's available, grants, other ideas or things, so that each one of these committees, because I sit on several of them, are all going around with the same thing, and it's just a big circle, and it's like, send it there, send it here. So
Mary,
at the last select board meeting that I was at, it came up in a report from the advisory committee, and their recommendation was to put it on the agenda to try to move it forward, but it's not moved forward yet, so.
okay, Mary, I'd like to suggest that perhaps you share with LWAC, the idea that they're, maybe exploring grant options. And certainly, if they want to come and work conjointly with the Conservation Commission, I think that's something we can do jointly with LWAC. I don't know. I think it would need to be something that's done, definitely involving the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee, because that's really what they're there for. But
They talked about several options at their last meeting.
have they talked about grants?
They talked about grants, and they talked about some of these other funding things that people were looking into, so.
Okay. Well, you might want to share these couple of ideas about the DP grants with them then, perhaps.
I will.
Great. All right, well, it's almost 8. So do you want to go over the site visits just quickly before we get on to talking about the culvert project? I think we should postpone discussing the South Laurel Drive site visit because I think we should postpone that. That's my recommendation, that we not get into that tonight. Is that okay with the commissioner? Robin?
I
Mary?
would agree, since it's not going to happen.
And they're not here. The folks aren't here.
Right.
So we've got the site visit at 294 West Pelham Road, which was for the solar project. And I think Beth Wilson turned in the site visit form, but I think Robin, you and Mary were there?
Yep.
So I wasn't there, so do you want to just summarize?
It was pretty impressive, actually. These guys want to have solar, and because of, I forget the particulars about their roof, it would have harmed their roof somehow to put the panels on top. So they plan to put up, these freestanding ones in the yard. And the location seemed fine. There didn't see, and Don was there too, as I recall. There didn't seem to be any issues whatsoever.
The wetlands were far enough away in the backyard that there's a lot of terrain between where the work is being done and where there's lower elevations and wet ground. I can't see how putting cement piers in the ground would affect that in any way.
All right. So that we're approving that permit.
Yep.
And then there's the 518 West Pelham Road, which was the freestanding garage project that we saw on Monday. And Mary did the site visit form for that, I think.
Yeah, and it's to tear down the garage, the standing garage, and put up a 2-car garage. And the same thing, there's no wetlands close to where they want to do that. There are going to be pylons that they sit it on. So I think as a group, we didn't see any concerns with them being able to go ahead and do that.
Nope.
All right. So
Indeed.
that's a easy one. And then we have to schedule a site visit. Is that, we only have one, Penny,
That's
for
the only one,
40 Wendell Road?
40 Wendell Road, right? That's the only one that I know of.
Okay. It sounds like for Beth and possibly for Scott, later in the day is better than the 4 o'clock time on Monday that we've done recently. It's getting a little darker these days, but I'm just looking at my schedule. Trying to pull it up.
So I'm going to ask you to pause because it's at 8 o'clock. Do you want to just go ahead and
Yeah.
discuss the dam stuff and come back to the schedule?
So hello. Do you want to, maybe we could have everybody introduce themselves, who's here, and what your role is.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's only me tonight. I'm Matt Stakowicz. I'm with Niche Engineering. I was the structural designer on the Lox Pond Road culvert replacement project, representing the town of Shutesbury, Becky, the town administrator, as the applicant. Yeah, I'm just here to a couple things. One, we need to ask for an amendment on the order of conditions. And two, just to give you a general update on the progress of the project and discuss some things like the water control plan. So first, the order of conditions. In the original order of conditions, we had requested a time of year restriction on the project, so that the project would happen in between August and September, primarily to achieve the least flow of the river during construction. However, due to a bunch of conditions, out of the contractor's hands, mostly due to lead times when it comes to the culvert itself and securing materials, especially concrete, has the industry has been hit really hard in the last year. So we're seeing lead times of 5 or 6 months to get culverts and precast concrete delivered. So the contractor did everything they could, but unfortunately they're not going to get things there until mid-September. So the August to September timeframe that we were hoping for, they just couldn't meet that. So ultimately we're asking for the contractor's benefit, so that we can complete this year, because we really don't want to push this entire another year. Would be to extend the time of year restrictions until November of this year, so that they have the contractor requested mid-November. Their current schedule says they'll be done mid to late October, but they want to add a little extra time in there, just to make sure that they'll, if there are any other delays or if there's any storms that delay this. And yeah, additionally, we had planned for August and September, but it turns out they wouldn't have even been able to construct it in August of this year, just because of the amount of rain that we got in July. So we were shooting for a low flow, but it didn't even end up being that case. So we would have been here asking for an extension regardless. But so that's the reasoning. I believe I submitted the contractor's schedule. I hope that you were able to read it. I don't know the one that they sent originally or not.
We have not been able to read it, but Becky Torres is going to print us out large ones so we can.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that would be great. Thank you. What is the proposed time frame to start this?
Sure, I have the schedule. I don't know if you would like me to share my screen. I could bring up their schedule.
Yeah, that's fine.
And as you're sharing your screen, can you just tell me what the date is you're asking to extend until? Is it mid-November, did you say?
Yeah, the contractor asked us if during this meeting we could extend it to mid-November. So they're suggesting November 16th. And that's out of just an abundance of caution so that we don't have to return and do this again. But currently their schedule has in-water work. So the time that water controls would need to be in place is currently September 8th to October 15th. And they, obviously our time of year restrictions begin on October 1st. So there's approximately 2 weeks that they simply wouldn't be able to fit it in given the timeline that they currently have with the culverts being constructed. So yeah, just to put it, so September 8th to October 15th is their current schedule. They're asking to extend the time of year restrictions to November 15th. So an extra month in case. So that's what we're requesting as the applicant, or on behalf of the applicant.
Any questions anybody have?
So my questions mostly relate back to, I'm trying to read this form, but looking at Labor Day weekend and looking at September 8th, you know, what, we haven't seen a water replacement plan, but what is the time that you'd be looking at drawing down the lake, since Labor Day is one of the big uses of the state beach and the beaches, as well as if you're going to draw down the lake, then that's a very short time frame for people to get their boats and everything out of the water.
So there won't be any drawdown. There won't be any drawdown below normal dam levels, but before normal lake levels for this project at all, unless that happens to occur. You know, while the normal drawdown happens to occur while they're constructing the project. But originally we had talked about discussing drawing down the lake to reduce flow. But there were several concerns by the Concom and DEP that we decided not to do that. We weren't going to file another permit. So there won't be any drawdown beyond normal conditions. I think the contractor had reached out to Howard, and I wasn't aware of any conversations that they had, but I knew they were planning on it, to talk to Howard about what they could do, to manage the flow, because when they have this water control in place, they're going to have a maximum flow that they can maintain. So if in the event of a big storm, or they foresee big storms on the horizon, how can they manage the dam to manage that flow so they don't get overflows and big events. So I think that was the conversation that they were having.
Let me interrupt here. I spoke to Howard this week about this, and he said that the contractor had been interested in having him increase the discharge right now, because in July the flow was higher than seasonally normal because of all the rain. But he said at this point it has normalized, and there's only about 1 inch to 2 inches going over the spillover. And Howard didn't see a need or didn't think it was advisable to change the current flow pattern right now. But what I was concerned about is that, it sounded like there is a dewatering plan, but we haven't seen it. And the contractor should have come back to us with that dewatering plan and met with us about it.
We got it yesterday, and I apologize, I haven't sent it out. It's 55 pages long, and I'm hoping that Matthew will walk the commission through it once we talk about the request for an amendment.
Okay,
great. So just to kind of circle back to the top, so I think that's all the contractor was looking for, is normal levels in the lake. I think they saw it when we went out and had the pre-construction meeting. It was considerably higher than it normally is, and the flow over the spillway was way above what we had asked them to design their water controls for. So they got a little worried about that, but I think hopefully talking to Howard, they will, they'll see. So we're not asking for any drawdown below normal operating conditions or typical flow for that time of year. That's what they designed for. But they didn't design for, the massive flow for the amount of water we got in July. So yeah, I apologize if that, made anyone nervous, but yeah, we're not asking for a drawdown. We're not asking, for Howard to do anything that isn't beyond normal. If it wasn't normal, I think they were hoping to get it back to normal, but hopefully that's settled itself.
All right,
Yep.
so we have to make a decision about the scheduling.
Sure.
Any other questions about that piece? Or more discussion we need to have?
It might be useful to have Mark weigh in on this because I had a conversation with him about, so part of the reason the condition with the dates was included in the order of condition relates back to some outdated information. And Mark, perhaps you can explain that.
Okay, so the original time of year restriction actually came from the Army Corps general permit, an old version. So the newer version does not have a time of year restriction. I'll tell you what. So the new general permit issued April 16, 2018 is no longer tied to in-water time of year restriction previously detailed in Massachusetts Department of Marine Fisheries. They had a technical report. Most of Western Massachusetts tributaries no longer have a self-verification in-water work envelope of between July 1st and September 30th. The new general permit only requires a time of year restriction if you have federal endangered species or in-water work that involves substantial turbidity concerns. So first question I have is, have you submitted a self-verification to the Corps?
Yes, we have. Yep.
Okay. So the Corps is aware of it.
Actually, we submitted a self-verification and they rejected that and they required a full pre-construction notification. Yeah.
Okay. Have they issued that yet?
They have issued a draft. We submitted in February and we've only just received the draft. So that's another thing that we're pushing to get before we begin construction in a couple weeks here.
So if they don't issue the PCN, you can't do the work, right?
Correct, unless we do it at risk, but we're trying to avoid that.
So this is Penny here, just to make sure I have this in the notes. Matthew, they required a full submittal of, what was the name of the document?
Pre-construction notification, PCN,
Yeah.
Pre-construction notification. It sounds like a notification, but it's actually something that the Corps issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Correct. So they've and I believe in their draft they did not to Mark's point, they did not include any time of year restrictions on their
So bottom line, they used to have it and they don't have it anymore 99.9% of the time.
So I would make a motion to approve the extension.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, David,
Aye.
Stefan, aye. And Harrington.
Aye.
Sorry, who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we got that.
that's good.
So,
Thank you.
and we have yet, so we'll have to look at the dewatering plan. Penny, can you just forward the digital copy to us? Or can you put it up on the website so we can download it?
I am not sure that I can. Maybe Matthew, do you have it? Are you able to screen share that with us?
I'm looking for that option, but I don't see the option to share my, oh, actually, yes. There it is,
We can-
in front of me.
I was just talking about sharing the document with us.
I will send you the document. As I said, it's 55 pages long.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
So
not a quick
I tried
read.
sharing my screen and it said that the host has disabled participation from screen
Okay,
sharing.
let me, no. Yeah.
That's fine.
Let me see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I changed it.
Did you fix it?
Yep, try it now.
Thank you. All right. Hopefully you can see that.
Oh.
Does that work? Can you see that? I'm missing you now.
No.
I can see.
Came and went.
Okay.
Can't read it.
So
Can't read it.
yeah, I'll skip over some of the text because I don't think this is important. But this was received 2 days ago, and I sent it to the Conservation Commission yesterday, August 10th. So we just received it from the contractor a couple days ago. Like Penny said, it's a 55-page document explaining the conditions, the flow requirements that we required. Both the Conservation Commission and us as the engineer required an 8 cubic feet per section an 8 cubic foot per second. I don't know why they have section here, but as the design, and they're proposing a pipe system that is a primary of 8 cubic feet per second, 10 cubic feet per second, and an additional secondary pipe permanently or temporarily placed alongside it with an additional 10 cubic feet per second. So their total design is capable of over twice what we requested in the design. So from that perspective, the design, we like that about the design, but there are some pretty major concerns that we have as the engineer that I've already talked to the contractor about actually and come up with a couple fixes because a lot of what they have just doesn't work. So these are my comments. If you can see, this beige area here is the private property, and this yellow area is our easement on that property. And you can see everything that I've kind of highlighted in the darker color is area that they've planned to encroach on private property, which obviously is not acceptable. And this is the existing house there. So we've already asked them to revise, all of this is coming on here. There's an existing rock wall that they've kind of just decided they would go right through, which we've told them that must be maintained. And then there was some, concerns about how close it was to this property line. If they were going to excavate this with an open cut, we were curious if they would be able to do that, this close to the property line. So sizing wise for the amount of water that we've asked for, I think it's an acceptable solution, but layout wise, it needs some significant changes. So you'll get the packet that hopefully Penny will distribute, but just know that we have already asked for some changes. And I haven't returned this officially to them because I was hoping to include any thoughts that the Conservation Commission may have on this plan to provide feedback. But essentially, the key points of it are, as I said, two flexible pipes that they are installing adjacent to the replacement of the culvert, which will have the capacity of, like I said, double the typical high flow for that time of year, 20 cubic feet to the required 8 cubic feet per second.
Matthew,
They're also doing it as a gravity fed system, which was a little unexpected to us, meaning that there's going to be no pumps. They're doing it. They're excavating out this culvert and laying the pipes, within that excavation. So we had anticipated when we were designing this that they would pump the water up over the embankment and back down into the water, but they're proposing it as strictly gravity, so no pumps. The benefit of that is that there's significantly lower sediment and turbidity added to the flow at the end of the water control, and the only negative is the additional amount of excavation they need to do to fit it in. But they've assured me that it will be what they're planning is well within, with the exception of this coming close to the other property line. They've already said that they're going to bring it in a little closer to the culvert. that it's going to be within the cut that they need to do for the existing culvert. So there'll be no additional, impacts to the area that we've already decided that they're going to cut, and there's going to be no additional, tree removal or vegetation because there's no additional excavation. So that's their plan. Like you said, it's a very large document. Most of it is there's a couple pages of plans here which show the details. It shows the coffer dams, which are all pretty typical. It shows the 18 diameter pipes that they're using, and then the rest are basically just the calculations. So the last 35 pages or so is all their calculations of how they came up to the right sizes. And
Matthew, I have a couple questions. Can you hear me?
sure, go for it. Yeah.
One question was, are there any screens involved for aquatic organisms or fish? And is there a rewatering plan? Are they, is there a plan for them to rewater gradually?
So essentially this plan is to divert the flow while they are building the bridge here. So
Right.
they're not going to be stopping any water flow. The water will continually be flowing through the diverted pipes during construction. So I don't believe there'll be any screens because they don't, because as a gravity fed system, it's not going to be, and nothing's going to be sucked up into any pipes, and they want to leave the continuity for, I believe this is a cold water fishery. So I know the fish can't really go much further than this upstream area, but so I don't believe there are any screens mentioned that I saw. I think for gravity systems like that, they don't include those. And then there are some details about the outflow where the water re-enters the natural stream bed, and they do have some details here for where are they? Yeah, they have this dewatering, rewatering area where the water is basically filters through a bag and back into the stream.
And can you show us where on the larger overview map that is located?
Yes, so that right now they currently have it in this area, which is a lot of what that the encroachment on the property was. So this was a polystyrene sheet with their dam, and they would come in here and filter back in. So that is likely, that's likely going to change. So I anticipate that these pipes will come in at a much steeper curve at the end here and re-enter, and they'll probably include the dewatering bag on top of these rocks here.
So there won't be any fish passage during this month of work?
There shouldn't be any restrictions to fish passage. So since it's a gravity system, the stream isn't being diverted up and over the embankment. So there's no pumps. Actually, yeah, I'll have to, that's a good
how
question. If
big
they
are
do have a filter bag, there wouldn't be any passage for fish, but.
Or how big are those pipes? You said they're like 10 cubic feet per second. What kind of diameter is that?
They are both 18-inch in diameter, so about a foot and a half in diameter.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, pipe 1, pipe 2. Yes,
So
18-inch.
I'm just wondering, forgive me, this is why I just don't understand if fish can pass through the pipes, but they're entering into a filter bag. How do they get out of the filter bag?
I'm slightly, I apologize. I may be confusing myself. They did include that detail, so I assume that's why it's on there. But it doesn't appear, so they call this a dewatering basin though, and they're not using a dewatering basin. So this may be something that they just included So if I go back to our plan view, they have a polystyrene sheet with their cofferdam. So they may not. I mean, it's not shown on here. So I may have just assumed, since it was on that they included that detail, that it was going to be there, but it doesn't on the plan view here. It doesn't. So I'll get further clarification on that and make sure that we know exactly what they're going to use at the outlet. But now that I've kind of the questions have been brought up, it seems like that there won't be any. Because when I talked to him, he did mention that there weren't going to be any, like you said, screens or impediment to fish. But yeah, if they were using some sort of filter bag or something like that, then there certainly would be. So it doesn't sound like they are. I don't know why they included it on the detail, the plan there.
Maybe we need to get that just confirmed.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I'll add that to my notes.
And the whole thing revised, like you were saying, you know, they certainly have to reroute their plan because they're going across the non-easement private property. And it'll be interesting to see how they fit that in with the stone wall and the fairly sharp angle they're going to have to create to get back
Right.
into the easement.
Yeah, so they're
Not-
going to need
not-
they need to revise the
Yeah.
dewatering plan and resubmit it to us.
Absolutely.
Not only
yes.
that,
They're-
they need to be a lot more clear on their plan exactly how these culverts are going to lie in the stream bed. What I saw looked like perched pipes. They didn't look like they were embedded in the stream bed. In order to allow fish to pass through this pipe in the future, those pipes can't be elevated at all. They need to either be flat on the bottom of the stream bed, or you guys need to find a way to ramp up the entryway and the exit way so that amphibians and other wildlife species can freely pass. Again, we're not talking about endangered species, but we are talking about species common to the Sawmill River.
Right. And do fish pass through the dam, or do they end at the dam?
They pass over the dam.
Okay, so they do swim with the spillway.
Yes.
Okay.
So those pipes are
Sure.
permanent? Those aren't just temporary pipes?
No, these are just temporary pipes. They'll be there for only as long as the water control is
Okay.
in place. Yep.
So that's pretty critical then, that the timing of that, if you're talking about a month-long period of time in November, it's not exactly a time period when amphibians are going to be active or fish are going to be active in that area. So it sounds like your dewatering is not going to affect the wildlife.
That's the impression we got when we filed our Army Corps of Engineer permit, and they looked at that. But we do know it's a cold water fishery, and I don't think there was anything in the order of conditions to. I know that there was a condition for mollusks and other. So for any aquatic life that is in the culvert section, in this section that they're dewatering, there's a condition to, transport that out. But I think when we were assuming this was going to be a pumped condition, we hadn't, planned or conditioned it to be for aquatic or fish passage. So I think the fact that it is going to be gravity fed is a benefit to the system that will be able to maintain that fish passage that we weren't really anticipating. But I'll provide that feedback to the contractor to let them know that there shouldn't be an outfall, and that these should be the pipe should be embedded
Flush.
Given the amount of water it's bypassing, I doubt that they're going to be less than completely full at all times. But we'll make sure there's no outfall. So
Or have it rain.
or at least I'll provide that feedback to the contractor and let them know that that's what the commission is hoping to see.
Did the commission get in touch with the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife when this thing was first permitted about, any possible impacts on the brook trout in this stream?
Commission
terms
did
of-
not.
Okay, I was just wondering, because it used to be that was part of, I thought maybe October was still a critical time for them, but
Yeah.
I'm not positive on that. Maybe that's just amount of flow to make sure there's flow, through the stream during that time.
Yeah, typically, when there is, we did a project in Wareham that did have, was a cold water fishery, and they had requested, the DCR, who we were getting a dam permit from, and the Army Corps of Engineer required that we go to the Division of Wildlife and Fisheries. But in this particular project, the Army Corps didn't require that out of us.
So if I understand, this plan needs to be resubmitted and approved. And I believe there was a site visit for the commission to go and actually review the site again before all of this construction and projects start.
Correct. So in the order of conditions, which I also have up here, which I was referencing earlier, you have a bunch in here about the dewatering plan, which I actually did go through, and it seems like they provided much of what you asked for on here. So with the exception of what we're going to ask them to revise and the comments that I'll provide, I think that the dewatering plan did meet all of the conditions in other words, and all the other points. And then prior to construction, there were 6 conditions here. The first condition, we're still waiting on a construction sequencing plan. And a lot of that has to do with the lead time for the box culverts, but they've told me that that's coming soon. So you will see a construction sequencing plan and a staging plan for the project. There are 2 DEP file number signs that need to be posted, which the contractor has agreed to do. The contractor is MAS Bridge and Building, and they've done plenty of bridge work, and they're very familiar with Concom. So they typically do these, and they've been very good to work with, and they understand everything. So I'm not too concerned about anything they might miss. But there is going to be a pre-construction meeting. This order recommends that it happen after the erosion controls have been in place. I think the contractor is going to want to have a meeting prior to erosion controls being in place, just to talk about a couple things with the commission, including the dewatering plan and erosion controls, and then would probably recommend a quick inspection of the erosion controls following installation, rather than holding the whole pre-construction meeting, once erosion controls are in place. So hopefully that's acceptable to the commission. Similarly, you asked for no vegetation and clearing until you've had that meeting. So again, that the contractor won't touch any of that until the pre-construction meeting has been had. And then the rest are that, erosion control should be maintained, and any changes to the limit of work shall be coordinated with the Conservation Commission, which will be done. So I think all of the prior to construction conditions that you're expecting have been met or will be met shortly. And since I kind of brought it up already, the pre-construction meeting, one of the topics that I know the contractors want to talk about is some tree removal. On our plans, we had included a note. Actually, nice, not here. Requesting that all existing trees be protected and maintained, and that if there are any trees that are necessary to remove, the Conservation Commission and engineer will be notified or consulted with. So that is one of the things that I believe the contractor is going to request to speak about at the site visit, because they pointed out to us a handful of trees that they understand that they are going to try and maintain all tree and cover as much as possible, but there are a couple trees right on this embankment here that are right adjacent to the wing wall. And there's no way to excavate for this wing wall without impacting these trees. And then there are a couple trees on this side similar that are just there's no way to excavate this wing wall without impacting those trees. And additionally, the way that they're planning on doing it is bringing their crane in here. Actually, probably a little closer to here, and the crane arm is going to, pick up the culvert pieces over here and probably swing around this way and drop them to there. So there are one or two trees that they might need to trim or draw back just so that their crane arm can swing across this side here. So the contractor will have more information, but I just wanted to let you know that that was, a condition we added to our plans, and they are aware of it, and they're gonna try to maintain that as much as possible. But logistically, there are a handful of trees that simply aren't going to be able to be maintained with the layout and excavation that's required, and the crane operations. But I think that's all I had on updates for the time being.
Matthew?
Yep.
So I'm gonna assume these are town trees that you're removing?
Say that again?
I'm assuming these are town trees that you're removing, that aren't on private property?
No, sorry, yeah, no, they're not on private property. They won't be on private property. These are all within the right of way.
You could consult the town tree warden a little bit?
Okay. We can certainly extend an invitation to the warden, during the pre-construction
Don
meeting.
is the warden.
What's that?
Don is the warden.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't, I'm relying on Becky here for a lot of this. So, she's been adding, including whoever she feels necessary to include, but the more we know, the better. So, yeah, if there's anyone else the commission feels, should be included with the pre-construction meeting, please let us know, and we'll be
Matthew,
sure to include them.
I mean, I think that Don definitely should be included, but Don Wakaluk and Janice Stone, who's here, are associate commissioners. And
Okay.
they've been advising us, and I think it would be helpful to have them attend. And I'm imagining
absolutely.
Penny might, I don't know, Penny, you thought you might be interested, even though it's.
Well, I would be interested since I was part of the hearing. So
Okay, so you'll be in touch with us about the scheduling of that. Do we have any more we need to cover on this, or can we move on?
Unless you have questions, I think that's the update that we had. And I'll let you know as soon as we get a revised water control plan, and as soon as we get the sequencing and construction plan. And
Okay.
like I said, the contractor should be reaching out soon to set up a pre-construction meeting.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew.
Have
All
a
right.
good night.
Good night. Before we end tonight, we should go over the minutes for July 22nd. Have people had a chance to look at the edits to Mary? Mary, did you get my edits?
Yes, I have your edits. And I'll revise them with the edits that you gave us.
So I wonder if you're editing it, whether it would be best if Mary made the edits and you approve them at the next meeting, since the commission has not seen the edits.
They were, I think, pretty minor ones, weren't they?
Yes.
Back, I don't think there was anything.
We could do that. Like I said, I can add. Does anybody else have any other corrections? I can correct them, and we can.
I just
do a
wanted
quick-
F capitalized in my name.
Yes, that was the main point.
That's the main point.
My autocorrect is not working very well, but if there's anything else that people read over, otherwise I'll correct these and we can officially approve them at the next meeting.
That sounds fine. I was going to just, and I sent an email about this, but I just want to remind people, I think it'd probably be easier for all of us if you're sending site visit forms digitally, if you name the forms. I imagine it makes it easier for Penny as well, so that she doesn't have to do that piece of it. So if you can rename the forms when you send them,
Yeah, we can just do that from now on,
yeah,
I always put the address.
yeah, that would be fine.
which is actually the protocol you should be using. It should be the address, and if you want to include the homeowner's name, that's fine.
Or the
But since
date.
we're filing by location rather than current owner, that works towards that end.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
in the past, I've just done it by including the address.
I think that's the way to do it. Okay, all right. Any other matters we need to cover, or we can adjourn for tonight?
It's a busy,
Were we looking at scheduling that other site visit?
We do need to schedule the other site
I
visit.
don't think we
So,
finished that.
What works for people? I'd like to find a way to make sure that we can include our new commissioners, because they haven't. But
It sounds like you just need to have your site visits a little bit later,
Yeah.
like 5 o'clock, 5:30. Sorry.
yes,
uh,
I think
And what
maybe
is this one about specifically?
the building permit, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think both of those guys don't get out of work in time to be able to be
Right.
there for like a 4:30 meeting.
I mean, the other alternative is to go back to the dreaded Sundays, but
Well, we could try for pick a 5 o'clock meeting for this one. Wendell Road,
Yeah, let's do 5
that
o'clock.
actually lives on Wendell Road. That might be convenient.
Let's do 5 o'clock on Monday. And then, when we get into September, it's getting dark, and I think, we'll probably need to we may need to be able to
Go to weekends.
go to weekends.
So we'll
Right.
check and see if that's okay with the homeowner.
So Penny, do you want to confirm that for 5 o'clock on Monday?
I will do that. So I don't.
And then
think-
send us the info. Do we have info on?
I don't have the information. Is this an email that you checked, Miriam? I don't know what this project is. Is
I
it something
believe-
that came
I
up
think-
while
I
I was
think it
away?
came- I think it came up when you were away.
Uh-huh.
I think that it would be, you could check the inbox for Concom. What was the address again?
It's listed as 640 Wendell
What was it?
Road.
It's 40 Wendell Road. We got on August 9th, we got an email from the building inspector, Russ Greco. And this is Russ Greco's house at 640, and it's a building permit.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't seen that information. I will look into that tomorrow and try to make the arrangements. I'm hoping, because it's been such a busy week and because I'm supposed to keep my time within 6 hours, to not spend much time doing Concom stuff tomorrow.
Okay.
Right. And if they can't do 5 because they're just getting off work at 5, I'm happy to do later. And I'm retired, so I can do weekends. Every day is a weekend.
Well, I can't do Sunday mornings because I'm on grandmother duty on Sunday mornings, but I could do a little
Oh,
later.
lucky you.
Yes. Yes. Saturday night sleepovers.
So put that on your calendar, but I'll make one attempt tomorrow to work on this.
Okay.
And then I won't be looking at the email again until Monday. So
That's fine.
we'll hope that that works.
And if it has to be that we find a different date, maybe we just communicate by email and find a different time later in the week if necessary.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn at 8:44 p.m.
Harrington second.
Okay. Dave,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington.
Aye.
All right. All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
Night.
night.
Stay safe, everybody.
You
Good
too.
night.
Night.
Night.